Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. I'm Ben Greiner, Director of Apple Technology at Ntiva. Excuse me. And with me is Ross Matsuda, our Systems Administrator focused on Apple technology. And let's see, today, slight change up for anyone who's joining us live. We were going to, and we had scheduled to talk about the benefits of supervised Apple devices. However, we're going to switch it up. We're going to switch March with February, and we're going to talk about the upgrade process to macOS Monterey. And I will explain more about why I think that's more timely and how supervision can wait until next month in just a few moments. But obviously, if you're joining to learn about supervision, please, you can join us next month, or you can stay. And we always record these and post them online. So first, some news. I want to mention Apple had a big week. What was it, a couple weeks ago? They dropped 12.2. Is that right, Ross?
Yep. We just got our usual batch of security and point updates for Monterey, Big Sur, and Catalina. Quick little reminder that the list stops there. So if you're running Mojave, let's get you upgraded.
Yeah, that's right. And I mentioned the latest because that's what we're focused on, Monterey, but there were updates for other operating systems. And as Ross mentioned, if you're not on Big Sur or Monterey, please contact us so we can get you updated. But I wanted to mention this news because we got a lot of questions about this, and there were some news articles. This is one of them that talks about macOS 12.3, which has not been released yet. It's still in beta. Ross, historically, based on what we know about how Apple operates, when do we think 12.3 would drop? Could be as early as the end of this month, but probably more likely next month.
That's wild speculation on my part, but usually, yes, I would expect a beta period to take about a month.
Okay.
I believe they just launched beta 3 for this build. I'd have to double check that to confirm. Yeah, that's generally speaking, we'll be given a little bit of notice once the Gold Master, once the release candidate comes out for that patch.
Okay, and the reason we mention this is because of these news stories, people are concerned. They often mention Dropbox and OneDrive, essentially breaking, as it says here. And our understanding is, although it may change the way you have to work a little bit, and OneDrive and Dropbox are working on updates. And to be fair, they should have been working on these updates a long time ago, because Apple has been, kind of promising to make these changes for at least the last year, 2 years, Ross? I feel like.
Yeah, I don't remember which WWDC they announced the file provider extension was going to be taken over, but it's been a space.
Yeah, and I also believe OneDrive, Microsoft is already on top of this, and they've already released an update. And I don't think we're going to see too many issues with OneDrive. And to be honest, we don't really recommend Dropbox in too many business situations. I think there are better solutions out there, Box being one of them, and Ignite another one. But if you are a heavy user of Dropbox and you anticipate, 12.3 giving you issues, please let us know. We can work with you to prepare for that. Dropbox, I think, has implied that they're not going to be ready for 12.3. It could be, later in the year when they have a completely working patch for this. And basically, it's not going to stop you from using Dropbox, but it may break the workflow that you're accustomed to. And so we're not going to go into that, but I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Reach out to us if you're concerned about that so we can talk in detail. And then I wanted to also mention that we recently posted 5 tech trends for 2022, and that's on our business, or that's on our blog. That's a blog post, ntiva.com blog. And there's lots of good information here. We summarize it into these 5. Automation, which we've been involved in on the Apple side for quite a while. Business intelligence is much more affordable for even small businesses. Cybersecurity, yes. I can tell you some more horror stories just from the past week about clients falling prey to cybercrime. And of course, cloud computing, more and more things moving to the cloud. and remote digital communities, which is pretty interesting. So I want to let everyone know about that. And let's get started. So let's talk about macOS Monterey, also known as macOS 12. That's the version number, right, Ross?
Spot on.
Okay, so why am I talking about this? macOS Monterey, October 25th, 2021. That's the release date. We do not recommend upgrading your operating system on the release date unless you have a spare computer lying around. Here's today. So Sunday, January 23rd was a big day. And then Apple sort of surprised us with an update January 26th. So Ross, why do I mention Sunday, January 23rd? Do you know?
Oh boy. So that exact date was 90 days from the launch of Monterey, from the release of that major update. Once that date passed, then our ability as administrators to defer the presentation of that upgrade, not an update, but upgrade, to client Macs running Big Sur and later, expired. Right? So as Apple currently has it, we used to have some tools that would allow us to pretty much indefinitely defer a macOS upgrade when it was released. This was in Catalina and earlier. Apple removed that tool starting with Big Sur, and the first time this has ever come to fruition was the first release after Big Sur, which is Monterey. What that means is that when users would be going into system preferences on their computer, if they see, oh, I think I have an update available, they're not going to see, just the presentation of the update as they're used to seeing. They're going to see something that includes an upgrade banner, sort of what we call them. And that banner is going to be larger than the rest of the text. It advertises, hey, we've got this available for you. You should definitely click on it. And then in smaller text underneath it is the actual ability to run that update that your Mac actually needs. That banner was no longer hidden as of January 25th.
So here's the banner as people see it now, macOS Monterey. This is what's called the banner.
Ben, can you start sharing your screen?
Oh, yes. Thanks. I thought I was already sharing my screen, Ross. Thanks for reminding me to share my screen. And we've got a raised hand from chat. Not sure. Oh, yes. Do we have a raised hand? Did I miss a chat or Q&A? Let me know. Or maybe it was someone saying, hey, Ben, you need to share your screen. Okay, do you see my screen now?
Yeah, we got video.
Okay, you got video. So the whole time I'm talking and I'm showing you this, nobody's seeing it. My apologies.
That is correct.
Let's see. Raised hand. Is there a raised hand?
Yep. If you pull up the participants list, you'll see what we got.
Yeah, with the raised hand is, can you chat us a question? If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and Ross and I will address them. So sorry about that. This is the screen share. And then these are some screen grabs. So this area right here, you see this, Ross?
Yep.
Upgrade now. That's the banner that when we can block it, you don't see. You just see this. Updates are available. Update now. You don't see anything else. And so what I had shown earlier was this timeline, Ross, which I thought I was sharing, and I wasn't. The macOS Monterey, and then 90 days later, the blocker gets unblocked, meaning Apple doesn't allow us to block it anymore. And
now, just to clarify language here, we can still block the upgrade attempts. What we're doing during that 90-day period is considered a deferral, where the user will not be presented the pop-up or the reminder or that banner that we just discussed. They won't see that. Right. And so if a user bypassed system preferences, they went to the App Store and just downloaded macOS Monterey from the App Store page, they can still do that, but the blocker, which is still in effect for a lot of our clients today, would stop them from actually executing it.
Yeah, and that's, I know this is confusing, but by default, we block macOS upgrades, not updates, upgrades. And let's talk a little bit about why we do that, because it's not like we're not control freaks. Most of us are not control freaks. We don't want to stop you from doing something that you want to do. But what we have learned over the years is so many organizations, and even more so now that we're not all in an office together, but so many organizations, people accidentally upgrade. They either think they're applying an update and they upgrade, or they're not prepared for the upgrade, or they think, well, this is only going to affect me and my system. And in fact, it can affect an entire team and an entire team's workflow. So what we've learned is we do want to block upgrades until an organization is ready. And I would much rather have a conversation with someone around why we're blocking an upgrade and how we can then release it, as opposed to why a computer is down for an entire day, maybe even longer, because of the fallout of an unplanned upgrade. People get very upset when their workflow doesn't work. So the upgrade blocker is there to protect your workflow from working, or to keep it working until you're ready to make that move, you as a team. And I understand sometimes that it could be a team of one, and it's like, okay, well, we still should do a little bit of due diligence to figure out if you're ready for the upgrade. And some of the things that we want to look for in that process is, what OS are you currently on? Occasionally, because Apple has not always been so aggressive in forcing people to upgrade, occasionally people are sitting on older operating systems, or maybe even on older machines that cannot upgrade. Maybe they don't have enough hard drive space. That is a huge issue with the most recent upgrades, because they're rather large, and they have to download, and then they have to expand, making them even larger. And then they need room to operate before they can clean themselves up. And what is it? About 35 or 40 gigs is what you need?
45 to 50.
Oh, 45 to 50, okay.
Oh yeah.
So 45 to 50 gigs, and I still see some clients on older MacBook Airs with 120 gig hard drives, and they don't often have 50 gigs to spare to get to the next level until they do some cleanup. In certain cases, we've had to remove full application suites. iMovie is a big one, of course, Adobe, Microsoft Office, in order to free up space to get to the upgrade, and then you can put the applications back or go get a new computer. And then, of course, is your software up to date and ready for Monterey? We just talked about how Dropbox is technically not quite ready for the next iteration of Monterey, although that's an update, and that's a little bit unusual. But upgrades are the ones that typically break workflows and software that's not up to date, not compatible. And then if you want to be super safe, you really should have a backup. And I know we don't all have backups these days because so much lives in the cloud. Ross and I have a backup, but I talk to a lot of clients who say, we're going to ask our team to store things in the cloud. And if they lose a file, it's their fault for not putting it on the server, which is now a cloud server. And I understand that, and it can take some extra money to have a cloud backup. But when things go wrong, and they do sometimes, you're going to have to be prepared that during an upgrade process, that's when things can fail, whether it's a hard drive failure or just an operating system that doesn't go right. And now you're in a state where you have to start over, maybe even erasing the machine to get it back into a proper state. That shouldn't happen often, and it doesn't, but it can happen. And so I have to share that and say, just to be safe, you really should have a backup just in case, and preferably a local backup. But maybe we're getting into the backup weeds there. So this is probably redundant, but what we experienced was when Apple no longer allowed us to block the visual blocker, and then they released an update, and we started prompting people to update, not upgrade, to update. We got a lot of questions, a ton of questions. And we have articles on this, we have videos on this, we've talked about it. I don't know what to do other than get Apple to change their UI, which I can't do. So if anyone has suggestions or feedback, please let us know. And I see Ross posted in chat an article we have, which I can probably just click on here, update or upgrade, how to identify. But if you're just updating, this is what you saw before the blocker was, well, the visual blocker for 90 days. This is what you saw if there were updates. And then after the blocker, this is what people saw. So they're not ready for Monterey, or they haven't thought about it. Now Apple's prompting them after the 90 days. We can no longer hide it. It's now showing them. And we're nudging them because we have that application to nudge people. We don't ever force people to apply updates that require restarts, because people get very upset if they, in the middle of a meeting or presentation, have to restart their computer. And I understand that. So what we're doing is we're prompting them to do this. And Ross, you actually created a really great, I don't have the screen grab here, but you created a great script whereby in our nudge, when they're prompted, if they click on the button, it will take them right to where they need to go. It'll bypass this, take them right to the sub menu.
Correct. Yeah, that's in the version of Nudge that I pushed out, I think in January. But it's a unique little GUI Apple script that removes some of the confusion from this, so long as you open system preferences from the Nudge pop-up itself.
Yes.
So that triggers this little applet to do its thing. It opens up the window for you, and it takes you straight to the More Info button, which pretty much avoids needing to see that basic pane and choose how to proceed.
Yeah, so in pretty much, I think what's happening is Apple is also prompting people to upgrade. And when they click that, or update, and when they click that, not our nudge, it takes them to this window. And of course, they don't see the red X's that I put here. They see this, and it's only natural that you would click this button. And I was looking at how Windows does it. And Windows, on the one hand, is not too dissimilar. They have their upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 at the top, but then they have another dedicated section that looks, similar but more robust below it for updates. Apple is clearly trying to hide their updates here, and it's annoying, because even when we ask people to upgrade, and let's talk about the best way to upgrade, it is, I think, important to apply updates before upgrading. We've seen better success rates. Like if you have updates sitting here ready to be applied, even though technically you could skip it and go straight to an upgrade, it just seems like the success rate is higher if you do a fresh restart and apply all those updates and then go with the upgrade. So what does it look like when you're ready to upgrade? Let's see. So let's walk through this. This is kind of our view of our ticketing system. May not be what our clients see, but this is a script that we created. So when an organization says, yes, we are ready to upgrade to Monterey, and it's often a good idea to test Monterey or any macOS upgrade on at least one computer that maybe is not so critical that if you had a problem, you couldn't, you don't have any alternative. You want to have a test machine, ideally, to apply the upgrade, make sure it works well. And once you've authorized it and you said, yes, I want my team to upgrade, then we send out these instructions. And we found that if you follow these instructions, your upgrade has a 99.9% chance of succeeding somewhat. But if you don't follow these instructions, it probably drops to like 80%. And I know that's not a big difference, but it's really frustrating when an upgrade doesn't work. So let's walk through this briefly. And Ross, I don't know if I know you have a VM you could show us if it's appropriate.
Yeah. Go ahead and halt your screen share for a second. And
okay.
If you talk us through this, I should be able to bring up our visual aids.
Okay, stop.
All right, so this is going to be, let's make sure this actually works. All right, we got a VM?
Yes, we do.
Brilliant. So yeah, before we dive in too deep, this is what that software update looks like when the banner blocker is gone, right? When that deferral window is closed. And in order to run an update, you have to click More Info. That shows you exactly what you're going to get, which is nice. And this is the view that I try to take people to when they use Nudge. Just brings them right here. However, yeah, let's talk about the actual upgrade workflow.
Yeah, because Apple has their own workflow, which if it should work and it works well. We have an additional workflow that does some additional checks, and that's handled through Mac Manage. And Mac Manage is our self-service application that Ross is launching, and we recommend using Mac Manage for a couple reasons. One being, you don't need to be an administrator on your machine to run anything in Mac Manage. That's probably the biggest reason. And it just gets you in the habit of going to a place that is safe and authorized for your environment. So anything that shows up in here should be vetted and technically acceptable to your organization, whereas the App Store is not always, you could install anything there, may or may not be authorized by your organization. And if you're not an admin, you may not be able to install all things or run all updates. So Ross, let's see, we would search for Monterey.
That pops up right here.
And this is after we check the storage, but even if you forgot, like you forgot to check the storage, like, do I have enough storage? This will warn you, here you go, install macOS Monterey. You must have at least 49 gigs of free space. And just as important, after clicking, your machine will reboot in 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, that's not what I meant. What I was meant to say, what's more important is that it's going to take, up to an hour, maybe longer, to actually complete the upgrade?
I would normally set aside at least 2 hours to wrap up everything. We've noticed that with the newer Monterey installers, and I think this goes back to Big Sur as well, that it does a lot of the work before the reboot, where in older OSs it used to just restart right away, and then you have this, this protracted period afterwards. This seems to split it up a little bit more evenly.
Okay. And even if you don't check your storage and you ignore this message, the application itself will check the storage, right, Ross?
Yep. If you select install, which will get the process started, and the system, what it does is it cleans out a couple caches, Adigy caches, doesn't touch any third-party software that's user-facing. It cleans up as best it can before it starts the download. And if you don't have at least 49 gigs free, you'll get another pop-up that says, I'm sorry, we can't do this right now. Please open some free space and we'll try it again.
Yeah. Now, go back to the software update, the Mac software update, just for a minute.
Yeah.
So if ideally in this workflow, if we were upgrading, we would want to run those other updates first, right? Yeah.
Can't hurt. Another thing that comes up sometimes, you'll see this points update 11.6.3. This is one that just recently launched. 2.5 gigs in size, not a huge amount of space, but still takes up some space. If your computer has already downloaded and cached this, and you're right on the precipice of having enough open room, running this update will apply the patch, get rid of the downloaded copy of it, and give you a couple more gigs. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you can, knocking these out first is always a great choice.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people out there have skipped these updates, gone straight to upgrading, and never had a problem, and that's great. But because we've seen so many upgrades over the years, the success rate just seems to be that much better when you apply all those updates. Plus, I think it forces you to restart, which also kind of resets everything. And I think a restart is super important. Like if you've had your computer up for 2 months, and I just talked to someone who enrolled their machine, and their machine has been up for 2 months. That's fabulous. That's really a solid operating system. But I would not trust that machine to do well with an upgrade. I would restart first, level set everything, and then apply the upgrade. Yeah. Okay, do we want to go further than this on this demo, or
sure we can, but it's going to get real boring.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So once you decide you want to proceed, you hit install, and then you're going to get this install macOS Monterey window that is just going to hang out in the background while everything occurs. You're just going to get some real basic information in here about what's going on at any given moment. It'll start with the download progress and let you know information about that. After the download's finished, it'll then prepare the operating system and begin the install proper. We've got a disclosure arrow here. If you want to see additional details, there's not going to be a lot going on for a little bit as it's just getting ready to do the download itself. But once you see this window, you're pretty much good to go. You just let this thing run and it should take care of itself.
And is it safe to use the machine while this is happening at this point, Ross?
If you're feeling saucy, I generally would probably recommend against it, simply because once this gets deeper into the process, right? So it finishes the download, it starts preparing the operating system to go. That's a CPU intensive task. So your other tasks might be a little bit slower because it's pouring a lot of energy into preparing an OS upgrade. And it's also not going to give you a warning when it's time to restart. And so if you're doing something and it's not auto-saving like every couple seconds, it may not be quite worth the risk. So I would usually say trigger this when you're ready to step away for a little bit. You can see now we finally got some progress there in the download. Which makes sense. It's about 12 gigs.
And then I've noticed, maybe it's just with the upgrades, or maybe it happens with updates sometimes, is you go through the process, you hit restart, you walk away, you come back, you're prompted to log into your machine, and then I see another bar for like 15 minutes, doing things. So is that something we have to be prepared for?
Yes, indeed. And that's because the computer has to restart during this process. And if you have File Vault enabled, if your disk is encrypted, part of the process of rebooting, of restoring from having your power turned off, is that you need to decrypt the disk so that the machine can continue, can load the operating system, and then keep doing what it's doing.
Yeah, so just because you started this process and walked away, you must be prepared when you return an hour later. You'll need to log in, and then you might need another 15 or 20 minutes for it to do its thing before it's usable. And after an upgrade, you'll also often get that little pop-up that says optimizing your system.
Yes.
And so what that means is your system may be kind of sluggish until it finishes optimization. And there are other things that happen after an upgrade. In fact, we have an article that we just posted. Ross, you think we're done here with this one?
Yeah, this is just going to go for a while. Let me
let
me end my screen sharing.
Okay, and I'll share my screen again. So we just posted, actually just this morning. Can you see my screen, Ross?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, we posted, you can now upgrade to macOS Monterey when you're ready. Now, that being said, you need to, if you're a client of ours, please talk to us about lifting the block or enabling Monterey in Mac Manage, which can punch through the block. And this outlines a lot of what we're talking about here. Make sure you have enough time, make sure you've got compatible software, make sure your team is ready. Like, don't just assume just because one person is ready for Monterey that everyone is ready. This is especially important with things like Keynote. If you're doing Keynote collaboration, you need to have the same version of Keynote. And the same version of Keynote may not work on different operating systems. And then before you upgrade, update your apps, clear out space, make a backup. And Time Machine backups are perfectly fine. Even like if you have a cloud backup, that's going to take a while to restore. If you're super concerned about failure and you want to get back up and running very quickly, Time Machine is certainly the best way to do it, but you need a local hard drive. And then, we put in red again, make sure you don't need your Mac for a few hours. I cannot stress this enough. So many people, they think they're applying an update, they're upgrading, and they're surprised at how long it takes. And then we talk about our process, which Ross just talked us through, using Mac Manage and the benefits of Mac Manage. And then if you are not a client of ours, you can always just use Apple's, process. Once again, I would apply those updates before running the upgrade, just because I like to minimize my downtime. And even though it takes a little bit longer, I think it's a better solution. Wow, it's 11:30. Nailed it, Ross. Exactly half an hour.
That'll do.
That is everything I wanted to cover. And next month, we will talk about supervised devices and the benefits of supervision and what that means on macOS and what it means on iOS and how you can tell if your devices are supervised. I know we had some hands up, but I didn't see any questions posted in the chat. So if your questions didn't get answered, please contact us, Ntiva.com. I think we have tons of contact pages up there. And these K-base articles, just as a reminder, are still at support.forgetcomputers.com. Eventually we'll get them moved over to Ntiva.com. Ross, anything else we should mention other than we do encourage you to get on Monterey. It's the most up-to-date, most secure operating system. I feel good about it. I've been running it for a while. We have lots of clients running it, but do it with intention and planning. Don't just decide one business morning to run the upgrade.
No, that's pretty much it. Test up, down, and sideways, especially when it comes to things that have really affect your business, like any VPN or security software. And once you know that you can check all the boxes for, we took a look at this, this, and this for your business critical, that's usually when we should pull the trigger.
Yeah, and you just reminded me, I'm going to mention one more thing. This is in the article. After you upgrade, there are some things that you'll need to do, especially around authentication. Like Apple will prompt you to re-authenticate, whether it's messages or iCloud or maybe Office 365. You've just dramatically changed your computer, and for security reasons, you may have to re-authenticate. So that's normal. Don't think that there's anything unusual, but it also means you're spending a little more time than usual getting set up. We're available to help clients with that and answer any questions. But yeah, this one here, you may have to re-enable text message forwarding. This is a really frustrating one for me. It's like I've got this perfect system where my iPhone, my Mac, and my iPad are all working in tandem with text messages. And then after an upgrade of some kind on any one device, it seems like it breaks, and I have to go in and check all my settings to get it working again. I don't know why Apple can't put that back. I don't know what the problem is, but that's something that I've run into quite a lot. If that's it, we'll wrap up and we'll see you next month. Thanks.